Nik and Adinah Johnson, and we're coming together with one more video. And this one is one that Nik talked about in our Love and Respect video, chapter 7. And it basically, he was talking about how insanity, and sometimes we have to do things to ask for forgiveness, and we have to forgive another person. So we talked about how I mentioned in my book that Nik had a bad habit of he had a really bad habit when we first got married of calling me childish, and that was a big deal for me. That was a big deal for me because I felt like, well, no, and it's so, let me just correct it. He would say, Adinah, you are acting childish, and I'm like, you are not going to call me anything. That is not going to happen, because I felt like it would escalate. If I'm acting childish today, then tomorrow I was childish, and I felt like the name calling was just going to keep going, and I wasn't willing to go down that road. And a lot of people look at me odd, even when we were counseling couples, and they were like, really, Adinah? Like, and I do feel like now, looking back on it, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing about it. I'm laughing at your face. I wouldn't change, because I think it helped us to grow. And I think, if I would have accepted that, I think, even when I was writing my book, my editor said, well, what happened when he called you childish? Did you say it was okay? And I'm like, no, I would never say it's okay for him to call me childish. It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, and I know people think that I was being a little extra and very touchy, but yeah, I'm not. That was not okay for me.
Okay, so that was the context that you gave. So we're calling this we can call it insanity.
Yeah.
We can call it, hey, and the reason why we kind of wanted to elaborate on this a little bit is that we talked about in chapter 7 about, a woman constantly forgiving her husband for doing something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we're like, okay, why should I continue to forgive if the behavior keeps on? So a little additional context around that, when Adinah would say, when I would say you're acting childish, to me, personally for me, it was not a big deal. I was like, I'm not calling you any profane names. I'm not hitting you. I'm literally saying right now, I feel as though you're being unreasonable to the point where I feel as though you're acting childish. And to me, I feel like I was being quite mature. But so I think it was a couple of things. First of all, I think I struggled to articulate the way I was feeling about situations. So I think kind of childish was just kind of being a crutch for me. So I knew that I had to really struggle to try to figure out how to articulate things better. The other thing is that I had to understand that it really didn't matter that I didn't get what was the big deal to her. I just had to get that it was a big deal and stop doing it. So this is kind of how all this kind of ties into it. This was like a sticking point in our relationship. And I mean, this happened a few times. We would get into a disagreement, whatever. I would say she was acting childish. She'd get mad. I'd say, I'm sorry. She'd apologize. And it just went on and on and on. And kind of gets.
No, I never apologized.
I apologize.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into that crazy cycle. And so what happened one day, I was like, hey, listen, I have, this happens. And we kind of go through the same kind of song and dance every time. And I'm like, I know you're sick of it. I'm sick of dealing with it. And I was like, so instead of me just saying, I'm sorry right now, all I can do is try to show you. And so literally what happened is that I try to keep track like every day that I did not say she was acting childish.
And that was the first year of our marriage. That was in 2000.
Yeah. So what would happen is that, if we had a disagreement, I would have to intentionally just pause in my head, like, okay, well, I have to figure out another way to do it. So it's going on. And what happened is that one day we were having a conversation, and when we first got married, the biggest situation we ever used to have was never really between us. It was about usually our family,
right?
And trying to figure out how that whole dynamic was going on. And so we was having a conversation, and something came up, and I felt like she was being unreasonable, and it caught me off guard because I was like, I laid it out to the point where I felt as though she should have understood what my logic was, and she didn't get it.
No.
And I remember this was on a Friday because we used to have Chick-fil-A Fridays.
Yeah.
So we were on our way to Chick-fil-A that morning, and I was having a conversation, and things went off the rails, and I called her childish.
Yes.
I said she was acting childish or whatever, and I got so upset. Right, and we pulled into Chick-fil-A, and literally I got out the car.
He ran out of the car,
and I sat on the curb, and at this particular point.
This is so funny now. It was so not funny.
Don't laugh at my pain, please.
It was so not funny.
Don't laugh at my pain.
I mean, I was in pain too. Because tell what you did and now
I was to the point I was so upset, I caught myself crying. And I was sitting on the corner, and on the curb, literally I was to the curb. And I was crying, and she like, what's the deal? I was like...
And I started crying too. Now, this is a man who never cried when we got married. Never cried... You just never cried about...
I've never been a crier like that.
You're just not a crier. And even when we had our children, we were like, oh, you're so going to cry when we have our children. Never cried.
Yeah.
So for him, for you to get emotional and cry, that was emotional for me because I didn't understand why were you so emotional? And so I started crying with you. We're both on the curb at Chick-fil-A bawling our eyes out, crying like the biscuits aren't that bad.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, at that point, I think I said 11 months. I was like 11 months down the drain. I was like, I've been tracking this for like, and she didn't know.
I had no idea.
I was tracking it because at that particular point, I was sick and tired of apologizing. Right. I was trying to do better. I was like, I'm going to just do better. And so it was frustrating that I was like 11 months down the drain. Now I got to start back over.
Right.
And I think at least at that particular point, and I don't even really know if she had noticed that I had not been doing it.
No.
But
I just noticed that I told you I didn't like it and you stopped.
Yeah, but it was taking a conscious effort on my end to do that. So literally almost like an alcohol addict, like, okay, here's another day. And
so you felt like you lost all that time.
I lost all that time.
Which is why you got so
That's
emotional
why I got
about
so
it.
emotional about it. Because I knew I was upset. I knew that it hurt you. And so like all that stuff kind of got me. So what happened is that literally, I think, it went from like completely to like one thing to another thing as far as like, it kind of started about the parents and then kind of ended up, the realization that she saw I was actively trying to do that.
Yeah.
And so literally, I was like, okay, and I pulled myself back together like, okay, well, here you go day one. And literally I didn't say anything else about it again until
5 years later, I think.
It was like 5 years later. Like 5 years since I did it.
And I think, and it's so crazy because when we've shared this story in the past, people were like, are you serious? That's a big deal. You guys got into, because you're not going to call me anything. I so am against that. I'm not, we can have a discussion, we can talk about things, but the name calling is not okay.
Right. And I think that, some people might be like, I was kind of, compulsive for you to track it like that, but that's what I needed to do to keep myself accountable for it. So I did. I mean, at this particular point, it's not an issue. If anything, she called me names now. So
not true.
Now she's day one. She needs to keep track. But why did I say all that? I think it's important for people to understand that sometimes apologizing is good, but many times it takes more than just that. Right. It takes action on our parts to just stop certain behaviors that we're doing in our relationship.
Yeah, especially if your partner doesn't like it. If it's hurtful to them. I mean, because for me, you calling me childish was pretty hurtful for me because it was like you were calling me a name and I didn't. That's not okay.
Yeah, for you, in my situation, it could have been, saying childish. For other people, it could be video games. For other people, it could be, vegging out on something. I mean, it could be anything, staying on the phone forever with your friends, texting too much. It could be, just
social
insert
media.
Yeah, just insert, behavior here. Mm-hmm. And just, if you know that is hurting your spouse, take ownership of it and do your best to stop doing it. So, and that's really why you want to do that, because it was just insanity for me to continue to try to keep doing the same thing and for us to stay on that cycle of, that happened and apologize and it happened and apologize. And so that's it. So I done cleaned out my closet. I done came clean. So that's it. So this is actually a follow-up to the chapter 7 video from Love and Respect. So we want to go ahead and just kind of get into that. So if you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe. What things have you had to try to deal with in your relationship. Please feel free to put those down in the comments. Anything else?
That's it.
My perfect petunia. Anything at all?
No. I guess at some point you're going to throw me under the bus and tell me what I've done too.
Hey, I just choose not to remember those things, man. So.
Good man.
All right, y'all. If y'all don't see me, send help. That's all. If y'all don't see me for us, send help soon. So, all right. Well, this is Nik and Adinah Johnson. Take care of yourselves and keep loving one another.
Bye.